YouTube. Just kidding. Anyway, hi YouTube. I am close to catching up. I have caught up so far, with the exception of this week, because, you know, The Flash premiered yesterday. With the exception of the episodes that are happening this week, I have completely caught up with Flash, Arrow, and Legends. By the time this week ends, I'll probably catch up. I still have to catch up on Fear the Walking Dead before Sunday, which I'm gonna do right now, because I am currently on... I have not done a reaction rant video to episode 6, which is the recent episode to come out. Came out, like, May 16. Wait, no. Was it May 16? Yeah, May 16. Anyway, let's get to it. Let's get to it. Okay. We end up at this church. I want to say it's at Baja, considering, you know, our group is going to Baja and don't mind the ball. Seriously, this is my mom's. Apparently she got this, and I got so distracted by it. But anyway, we arrive at this church. I'm only assuming is at Baja, only because that's where the group is heading. But it looks like the group is not there yet or something, and, we see this priest in the church, you know, doing a sermon and telling the parishioners that they have to fight the dead, right? And, after that whole little, sermon and his little speech about fighting the dead, every parishioner, including the priest, like, I don't mean every parishioner, like, all the people there, the altar boys, the priest, everyone in that church ends up taking a communion, like, communion wafers one by one. And, it seems kind of sketch to me, because, I don't know, something seems kind of dreading when it comes to when they took the communion thing. I don't know what it was, but it just seemed really wrong to me. Not that, I'm Catholic, so I don't see anything wrong with, like, you know, keeping your religion during an apocalypse and all that shit, but it's just, when they started taking communion one by one, it seemed so foreboding. I don't know what it was. I couldn't shake that feeling. I don't know what it was, but anyway, the parishioners all end up in, town square and arming themselves with weapons, and we get to see the arrival. Again, we get to see, in the flesh, Thomas Abigail, because he shows up in town square in his truck, and he urges the priest to stop what they're doing, right? He also mentions to the priest, you know, do not protect her. I don't know what her they're referring to. And it's kind of questionable because, you know, we only saw Thomas in flashbacks. We all know that he has a connection to Strand. And even Luis. And, I don't know this her that they're referring to. So it kind of begs the question, who is Thomas talking about? Why is Thomas stopping the priest and the parishioners because the parishioners, they're in town square arming themselves with weapons because they said they're going to fight the dead, right? And all of a sudden Thomas comes out of nowhere and tells the priest to stop what they're doing. So the priest and the parishioners are arming themselves to fight the dead, and Thomas tells them to stop and also to do... Sorry, I need to rephrase that. The priest and the parishioners, they all arming themselves with weapons, and they're apparently out to kill the dead, right? And, Thomas arrives to tell him to stop. The priest is the one that tells Thomas, do not protect her. We don't know who this her is. It obviously is not Strand. And, so apparently, from what I'm getting from this, the parishioners said that they're gonna kill the dead. Thomas is stopping them from trying to stop them from killing the dead, and he's also protecting a female. So, it's kind of getting even more sketchier, because when they're taking that communion one by one, it seems so foreboding. They are preparing themselves to fight the dead, fight the infected, and Thomas comes out of nowhere and tells them to stop and not fight the dead. And apparently he's protecting a woman, because the priest apparently knows who Thomas is protecting. We don't know who yet. And all of a sudden, as that's happening, the parishioners begin to drop to their knees in agony. They're like in pain. And so that whole foreboding thing that I got when I saw them taking the communion kind of came to pass, because the parishioners all begin to drop down on their knees in agony and blood is pouring out of their eyes. And it is so effing creepy. In my honest opinion, when I got that foreboding moment when they're all taking communion one by one, I had a weird chill in the air, like something was going to happen because they were doing that. And it turned out to be right. All the parishioners, including the priests, are all falling to their knees, they're in pain, and blood's coming out of their eyes. So, I think, in my honest opinion, when I first saw that, and I'm saying this from what I thought the moment I saw that. I'm not counting the rest of the episode, because we do find out what happened in the rest of the episode. This is my actual feeling when I first saw it. I thought someone straight up poisoned something, because they seemed all fine during the little mass in the church. And then I got this foreboding chill when they all started taking communion one by one, and now all of the parishioners are all dropping to their knees in pain, and blood's pouring out of their eyes. So I think something was poisoned, and I want to say maybe it was the communion wafers. Because they all took one. They were all fine up until they all took communion, and then they ended up outside. So something happened. It's either the communion wafers, or from when they finished the communion wafers up until they got to town square, something happened that caused all those parishioners to just drop down in pain and have blood pouring out of their eyes. But then it begged the question when I first saw it, like, why would Thomas stop the parishioners? Hang on, what's my time? 6 minutes, okay. Why would Thomas try to stop the parishioners from fighting against the infected? And who is the her that Thomas is protecting, that the priest is referring to? Because the priest, when Thomas came and tried to stop the priests and parishioners from fighting the infected, the priest told Thomas not to stop protecting her. Who is the her that Thomas is protecting? And why does he not want the parishioners to fight the infected for? But anyway, back on the Abigail with our group. The Abigail approaches the Mexican, flotilla or something like that. I forgot what it's called. But they pretty much reach the border. And, I heard that, they're called the Mexican flotilla or something like that. Flotilla. They're guarding the border to Mexico, right? And, back on with the group, Travis is checking in on Chris. And, the reason for that is because everyone's discussing the whole thing with Chris and Reed. Remember, Chris was the one that shot Reed, like blew his face, the bottom half of his face off. And Chris claims that Reed was turning, but we all saw that, yes, he was injured by the crowbar, but that injury from the crowbar was not that bad to the point where he would turn. He didn't die. He didn't die and turn. He wasn't bitten anywhere or scratched. And the injury from the crowbar was not that bad that he would die and then turn. So, it's kind of suspicious that Chris said that Reed was infected, that's why he shot him. And the reason why, Travis is just checking on Chris because of that, and Chris is wondering why everyone's so hush-hush, and Chris is, like, asking, why is everyone mad at him? And, Travis said that according to Madison, Reed wasn't infected when Chris shot him. And, when Chris... Well, to be fair, though, like, Chris, when he asked why everyone was mad, he asked if no one believed him, and he naturally assumed it was Madison that said something to Travis, right? And Chris is devastated when he finds out from Travis that according to Madison, Reed wasn't infected when Chris shot him, because Chris believed that Madison was on his side this whole time, right? Because, remember in the last episode, Madison was the one that comforted Chris during all this, when he got, with the whole Reed situation. And, back on the wheelhouse, Luis prepares to meet with the military contact to pay for passage, right? And, as he's about to leave, Strand looks through the binoculars and he actually sees the military officers approaching the boat, and he's like, hey, wait, there's 2 people on their way here. And, Luis is like, I only recognize the one driving the boat, but I don't recognize the other people. So, since they're concerned about the second officer that's coming along with Luis's contact, he orders Madison to, get Travis, Chris, Nick, Alicia, Daniel, and Ophelia, and hide everyone below deck, because keep this in mind, Strand and Luis, Luis in general, must have told his contact that there was only going to be 2 of them, because he only has money for just 2 of them, right? So he tells everyone else to hide below deck. And from the engine room, Madison's group's all listening to the conversation between Strand, Luis, and the 2 military officers. And Daniel's the one translating, because, they're all speaking Spanish. And as things get a little complicated, because, from what the translation that Daniel gives, the 2 military officers wanted to search the boat to see if there's anybody else, especially infected, on board, right? And long story short, gunfire just erupts up on deck or something like that, and because, the officers insist on searching the boat. And so because of that, gunfire happens, and everything gets all quiet, and all of a sudden they get pretty much a signal, because I think Strand did something to... I think he opened doors, because it got really bright in the engine room after the gunshot fire. And so Madison's group, they charge upstairs, and they ask Strand what happened, and, they see that Luis got shot, he's mortally wounded, and he lies next to 2 dead officers. Daniel's stabbing the 2 officers from preventing them from turning. As he's about to get to Luis, he actually wakes up, and he's, mortally wounded, and he begs Daniel not to stab him, right? And he gives Ophelia, who's there, a medallion with an owl face on it. And he begs Ophelia to give it to his mother when they get there. Unfortunately, Daniel, he takes the medallion from Ophelia and pretty much flings the medallion into the ocean. Which is kind of a dick move if you think about it. It's like, dude, the guy's dying. His death wish was to give the medallion to his mother. Why won't you let him have that? But anyway, while Ophelia checks on Daniel, because Daniel left, right? Nick is still on boat, and Luis whispers to Nick something. We don't know what he whispers, because he whispered to it. But anyway, Strand ends up steering the Abigail toward the Mexican coastline. Anyway, I am slowly running out of time, so there will be a part 2 to this. Hang on, wait, let me see how... Yeah, there will be definitely a part 2 to this. Hang on. Let's get at least one more line. Anyway, once they get on land, Strand leads the group into town, and they end up pretty damn close to where the church was, and they find a pile of dead parishioners in front of the church. Remember, it's the same parishioners that we saw earlier in the episode. And what worried Strand was the fact that right next to the church was Thomas Abigail's truck. And he gets freaked out. He's like, oh my god, Thomas is here. So he starts going around and looking in the truck, calling Thomas's name, frantically looking for him. He goes inside the church. And when Strand's in the church, the dead parishioners come back to life. And they're all infected now, and the group has no choice but to fight off this herd of infected parishioners. Little kid and little altar boys, all of them. And Strand sees this, and he joins them in the fight, which is pretty cool, that he's helping out. And as Daniel's about to kill this one infected boy, he paralyzes, because he grabs it by the neck, and he's about to kill it, but all of a sudden he paralyzes, and a flashback happens with him. Some sort of memory flashback, and of clutching a young. Apparently, I think it might be him. He's either the one clutching the boy by the neck, or he's actually the boy being clutched in the neck. But he ends up getting out of that whole memory thing when Ophelia kills the infected boy for Daniel. And yeah, I'm running out of time, so I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.